Happy Friday. Welcome here to another edition of Husker Online Headlines. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple. We are with you here at the end of the week, every week on the Husker Online YouTube channel. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe to us. We produce this show every week as well as the Husker Online show. And this show, we like to give you our top headlines here of the week, Steve Sipple. And let's get right to it. Headline number one here on Husker Online Headlines. I'm a preseason voter in the Big Ten media poll. I'm also a voter this year, again, in the official all Big Ten teams, as well as the top players to watch in the Big Ten Conference. And let's get right to it. I mean, the Cleveland Plain Dealer puts out what's considered the official Big Ten poll. Then the Big Ten itself has its own thing they do where you put down like your players to watch, but they don't actually rank the teams in that one. Mm-hmm. They did away with that for whatever reason years ago, which has allowed the Cleveland Plain Dealer to do what they do. But there's two voters from Nebraska on each of these things. Mm-hmm. I look at it right now. I mean, I'm fairly cut and dry with my ballot right now.
Are you?
What I'm going to do.
Are you?
I'm going Iowa 1 in the West.
Smart, wise. That's
because
the way to go.
They're more structured and they replaced their weakness. I get the Brian Ferentz, Kirk Ferentz drama, but they're my pick in the West at number one.
What do you mean they've replaced their weakness?
Their quarterback.
We've had this discussion. I agree with you on the pick. I don't agree with your reasoning. That wasn't their weakness.
You say offensive line.
All due respect.
They had a quarterback that couldn't throw.
Their offensive line was the problem. That was the problem. It made it really difficult to run the ball. They didn't run the ball particularly well. It was not even close to what I was used to in terms of the offensive line. It made it so they couldn't run their offense. Go back and watch the Nebraska game. What the hell were they doing? I don't even know what they were doing half the time. Neither did Bush. I mean, they weren't running Iowa's offense because they couldn't. Now, they definitely made a big move.
Are they your pick in the West?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I just don't agree totally with your reasoning. But I agree that they had made an upgrade at quarterback, Cade McNamara. I mean, he led Michigan to the college football playoff. They're going to have I don't know, Sean, is there a better – I don't know how many tight end duels are better than Eric All and Luke Lachey. There can't be that many better than that. Lachey came on when Laporta was hurt, and I was like, man, Luke Lachey is maybe like the third or fourth best tight end in the Big Ten last year. And here's the deal, Sean. This is what you can write when you get around to writing it. Their defense was number 2 in the country last year. I'm not sure. It could be better this year.
Well, and they gave Ohio State fits. Now, Ohio State handled them.
They did.
But they were towards Ohio. I mean, Ohio State was frustrated. Mm-hmm. They couldn't score in the red zone. That's why what Nebraska did on them,
I know,
was pretty. I mean, you got to give Mark Whipple a lot of credit.
Yeah,
the way
because
everybody
doing that,
everybody in the world knew Nebraska was going to try to throw deep to Trey Palmer, and Iowa still couldn't stop it.
They lost that corner early, right? They lost Cooper DeJean early, but still, now that's what people are. Our listeners, our viewers are going to be like, Sipple, their defense wasn't that good. Look what Nebraska did against them. No, it was a good defense.
It was an elite defense.
Yeah. Thank you, Sean.
And special teams.
And they bring back Torrey Taylor as their punter, one of the best punters in the country. So they have an elite defense. They have an elite punter. They add Cade McNamara. They add Eric All. They solved a lot of their problems in the skill positions. They still have that little receiver back.
Rigoni?
Yeah, he's been there since the Big Ten started. I mean, it's like the guy, he's like my age, Sean, and he's about my size.
He played against like Westerkamp.
Yeah. I mean,
Westerkamp's getting married, by the way. Yeah.
Really?
Congrats, Jordan. He's got I follow him on Facebook, and they got a big wedding coming up. I don't know if it's this weekend.
I bet that'll be a big wedding.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Iowa. Now the question will be, did they solve their offensive line issues? The same group is basically back. Now, I don't know if that's good news or bad news.
They got a quarterback, though, that can move.
Yeah.
Move the
Big
pocket.
Upgrade.
Huge. I mean, they got a quarterback that played in a college football playoff game.
Yeah, I'm not trying to make out that former quarterback to be good. He wasn't. But I just thought their line was more of a problem than anything.
Okay, so my number 2.
It's got to be Wisconsin.
And So yeah, Wisconsin too, and Iowa. I even look at crossovers. Crossovers is huge when you picked it a bit.
Oh yeah.
So obviously it's Wisconsin or it's Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State. Who do you got of those three? Well, Iowa only has Penn State. That's a pretty good draw.
That's a really good draw.
Like, okay, you're going to get one of those teams.
One of them,
They got the most favorable of the three,
they did.
which is not, I mean, they're all top 10 teams.
Yeah.
Now Wisconsin has my number 2 spot, and they only also play one of those three teams. I believe they drew Michigan, right?
I'm not sure.
Or Ohio State. I think they drew Ohio State. Nebraska drew Michigan. So Wisconsin has one tough crossover game. They've got a really manageable non-conference. I still question, though, like that was, to me, last year, one of the worst, if not the worst, Wisconsin team we've seen since Nebraska's joined the Big Ten.
Well, they're 4-5 in the Big Ten. 4-5.
And they should have lost in Lincoln. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, a running back, they hit the wheel route. They hit the one wheel route to win the game. And Nebraska wins that. If that wheel route, which that was like a 1 out of 10 throw.
Yeah, beat the
and he made it.
Yeah.
And that win, I mean, to throw the ball 30, 40 yards in that win that day was hard to do.
So why don't you pick Wisconsin over Iowa? One reason might be
new system, new coaches.
Systems. Yeah, new systems. Really different systems. They're going to Phil Longo.
There you go, Ohio State for
Phil. Yeah, Phil Longo comes in with the air raid. Now, okay, it's a new system. It could be scary, though, because they have Tanner Mordecai, who's a gunslinger, and put up big numbers at SMU. And listen, so you're throwing the ball around, and then you can hand it to Braylon Allen or Ches Malusi. They don't have, I mean, that might be a running back duo. There's not that many running back duos better than that. Braylon Allen could be a first-round pick. First-round pick as a running back. Malusi's really good. So they're scary. I think they could be scary offensively. Defensively, I don't think they're scary.
Can Braylon Allen stay healthy this year?
Yeah, that's a good question. He was not healthy.
When you run big and physical and upright like that in this league, it's hard to stay healthy.
Yeah, he wasn't healthy in Lincoln last year.
No. I mean, he tapped out of that game multiple times, and the game changed every time he left.
Yeah.
And it changed every time he came back in, but you could see the pain he was running with. So they're my number 2. I think number 3 is debatable, but I went Minnesota. I'm going to go Minnesota 3.
It's hard in the middle to pick them.
Minnesota's got a tough schedule, though. Illinois is my 4.
Okay. So Minnesota's your 3, Illinois is your 4, and Nebraska's your 5.
And Nebraska's my 5. And then Purdue with new head coach Ryan Walters. They lost everybody's my 6.
No, they didn't lose everybody.
Well, they lost a lot.
They have Maccabee back, who almost rushed for 1,000 yards, came just short. Remember Devin Maccabee? What a tough runner he was as a freshman. 968 yards. They have not had a 1,000-yard rusher since. What do you think? How long do you think it's been?
Mike Allstott. I was kidding.
How long do you think it's been?
15 years.
You nailed it. 2008. I don't know how you did that.
So pre-Nebraska.
I don't know how you did that, but you just nailed it. 2008. 15 years. That's exactly right.
Well, they've been really, I mean, Braum has been the highlight. I mean, they played for the title last year, but they lost a lot. They have a new transfer quarterback.
They have a lot. They have some back. I mean, they lost Charlie Jones. They don't have that alpha receiver, but they have some they have everybody else back at receiver. They lost Payne Durham, but they really like their tight end. They have great outside linebackers. They remember how bad they were in the secondary. That's still a huge question.
And they have a good defensive coach. But I still think I'm putting them below Nebraska.
Yeah.
And that game's in Lincoln.
Yeah, 100%.
And then, I mean, come on, Northwestern.
Yeah.
I mean, if there was a 9th place, you move them to 9th. I mean,
we'll talk about this
next
in a little bit. But I mean, I saw the Chicago Tribune raise the question of whether Northwestern should even field a team this year. It's being talked about.
That's aggressive, though, because then would they forfeit their payouts?
It's a great question.
I mean, then all these teams lose this ticket revenue, the local economy revenue of those home game weekends. Come on, now.
I'm just saying.
This seems like a bird brain take.
I'm just saying.
The league would kick them out.
The Chicago Tribune raised the question.
Okay, they come to Lincoln this year. What do you tell all the Lincoln businesses? And is that our homecoming game? I mean, what if like, oh, you're not having the game? That'd be one where you could like try to schedule Bethune-Cookman. It'd be about the same opponent, right? And I laugh. Then Northwestern will beat Nebraska.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
I'm not going to say that, but okay. I want to go through the East real quick here. I'm going to fire through what I got right now. Number 1, Michigan. You got to go Michigan.
Yes, you do.
I mean, they've played in the playoff twice in a row. They've owned Ohio State, number 2 Ohio State. I think they're both playoff caliber teams. There's really no way, in my opinion, the Big Ten can get 3. I mean, I think those two teams could be playoff teams. I think Penn State's a wild card. They could play themselves in, but they're your 3.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you start getting to 4, 5, 6, 7, that's where it does get debatable.
Yeah, it sure does.
And I think I'm going to make a case that Maryland's my 4.
I like that.
Michigan is my 5.
Michigan
State's my 5. Rutgers is my 6, and Indiana's my 7.
That's good. That's perfect. Michigan. I mean, the writer for Michigan, the on-3 writer for Michigan, whose name's escaped me right now at a bad time.
Chris Ballas.
He was great, by the way.
The man.
Yeah, he's great. And Ballas said a couple things that were really, really stopped me in my tracks. And one was depth across the board. They feel like Michigan's second team could beat Big Ten teams. It would fare if Michigan sent its second units out, it would fare well against some Big Ten teams. Okay. Now that's saying a mouthful, right? The other thing he said is they haven't felt this good about their defensive line since the late 90s when they won the national title, depth and talent. So they'll be hard to run against. And that's largely what it's all about. So they're loaded up. The only thing they don't have a big time receiver. And I think they're a little short at one corner, but it's hard to find really glaring weaknesses. Ohio State, you wonder about the quarterback. For the last 3 years, they haven't played the kind of defense. They haven't played championship level defense. And now they might have to. Because it could take the offense a little bit to get going. But on the other hand, Sean, is there a better player in the country than Marvin Harrison Jr.? I don't know if there is. He might be the best player in the country.
And I will say, like, the timing of when they play Michigan, it's going to be cold and rugged, and that plays into the style of Michigan.
Well, it's probably what Michigan does it.
If they played that game in like September,
it
might be a different type of game.
Different, yeah.
And Michigan may not be as equipped. Mm-hmm. But when you're playing on Thanksgiving Saturday, I mean,
you've seen it the last 2.
It's
Michigan
ugly.
Just bullies them. They just play bully ball. I mean, and come on, that's probably the whole idea with what Harbaugh is doing.
He builds it up for that weekend. Uh-huh. And then, I mean, their non-conference schedule is a joke. Michigan's playing like practically Division II teams in the non-conference.
Oh, I think they are.
No Power Fives.
They're playing. I think they're playing East Carolina on Peacock, on the Peacock network, which it'd be like Nebraska playing a game that's not on network TV. You got to stream it.
People would be. And it's going to happen, by the way. That will happen eventually in the Big Ten because the Peacock gets some games.
Okay, East Carolina's on Peacock.
East Carolina, UNLV, Bowling Green.
That's great. That's just wonderful.
I mean, that is. And it's funny, somebody will ask Harbaugh at media days about their non-conference schedule, and he'll just be, yeah, you bet. Yep. Like, he won't even like go into it.
I mean, the one defense he would have,
the East Division.
No, that's a defense. Another defense would be, if I was Harbaugh, I might say, you guys always talk about parity in college football, how everybody's getting pretty good. Well, what are you saying? Are you saying these teams aren't good, or are they good?
I mean, I think the one thing too is it's a huge advantage because, like, look how many players they'll develop those first 3 weeks.
Remember last year they went? Was it last year they went into the season? They didn't know who their quarterback was, so they just said, "We'll take the first 3 games and determine who our quarterback is."
Yeah,
not many teams have that luxury.
Just that. I mean, think about the fall of Nebraska when they were really good. Those types of games, they'd play 100 and some guys a game.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you'd just be trying to like keep the guy doing the participation chart had the hardest job in the stadium.
Advantage, though. You get an advantage
because then the players know how to play. All right, we went overtime here on headline 1. Headline 2, Big Ten media. The Big Ten has announced the 42 participants that will take part in Big Ten media days in a couple of weeks. That will be July 26th and July 27th at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. Nebraska is day 2. And the Huskers will have Ethan Piper, Luke Reimer, Jeff Sims as their 3 players there. Sip we'll get to hear from a lot of other top players on that second day. Blake Corum from Michigan will be at that day. Chris Ottman-Bell, by the way, another guy, a 7th-year player back for Minnesota.
7th year. Is he seventh
year?
That's a little ridiculous.
Yeah, they call him the law firm. His last name, Altman Bell. Well, the law firm is going to probably leave Minnesota with a law degree. Hey, Purdue taking a transfer as well. Hudson Card.
Okay, quarterback.
So that
like Nebraska taking a transfer quarterback. The quarterback position.
Wisconsin's taking a transfer too. Tanner Mordecai.
Yeah. See, here's the thing with the quarterback. It's such a. I mean, I'm not breaking any ground here, but it's such a gigantic position, and if you have a player, a transfer who's established himself as a clear-cut starter, it makes a lot of sense. Tanner Lee did it. Remember Tanner Lee? He was the representative for Nebraska at media days. So
there's some coaches that don't like doing that though. Like
in this day and age, though, it makes.
I don't think like last year, Frost, they didn't consider Trey Palmer or Casey Thompson or O'Shawn Mathis to go. Now O'Shawn got there late. He wasn't a part of the spring, but you kind of knew that Casey Thompson was going to be your quarterback. But they chose to bring Vokalek, Quentin Newsom, and Garrett Nelson.
Yeah,
a year ago, and
that's interesting.
So there's different. I mean, like there's approaches where coaches like, hey, I'm just going to take the three most boring guys, and I don't want them to say anything.
Sims makes sense.
Oh, for sure,
a veteran guy who's played, he played at Georgia Tech, started a lot of games, and he's the defined number one. It makes a
he'll
lot
promote
of sense.
Your program the best.
Yeah. Reimer has led the team. Luke has led the team in tackles by a long way the last 2 years, and in fact, he will most likely end up as, and this startles people, he'll end up as Nebraska's third all-time leading tackler if he goes at his current pace. Third all-time.
Barrett Root and
Jerry Murtaugh.
Yeah,
your friend Jerry.
Because Levante only played 2 years.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, Luke Reimer makes a ton of sense. I thought he was their best player. I thought he was their best defensive player last year. Not only did he lead the team in tackles, I just thought he was their best player sideline to sideline. Can
you imagine if Levante David played her 4 years?
Oh, he would, yeah.
He would have had 500 tackles.
Yeah, he would have had a lot. And then now the one that people that raised their eyebrows was Ethan Piper.
That's a surprise. Yeah. I mean, I just think because there's a lot of linemen that played more than him, but it makes you wonder, like, where's Corcoran at in the discussion? I get why Prohaska didn't come. If Prohaska would have played a full year healthy and looked good last year, he might have been the choice. But hey, Piper's an older fifth-year player in the program.
He looked good run blocking toward the end of last year. I thought he was a pretty good run blocker toward the end of last year. And what I really appreciated about him, and this goes forgotten by most people, and I don't even remember, it was late in the season. And, the offensive line obviously endured heavy criticism from the media, from fans, from everybody. But Piper came up to that press luncheon and took questions.
Took the bullets.
And he handled it really well. And he did it out of a sense of obligation. And I always thought that always was striking to me. Turner Corcoran did a lot of that too, but Piper did it late last season I think there were some weeks where there wasn't representation. And I was kind of surprised when he walked in the room because it wasn't going to be all that pleasant, but he handled it exceptionally well.
So the other thing too, Tony Petiti will speak day one for 30 minutes in the opening
at Big
address.
Ten Media Days.
Wednesday at 10:30, which is 9:30 Central Time. Tony Petiti will take the stage to open things up. Remember last year when Frost went before?
Yeah,
it was because Nebraska had to open up camp to get ready for Ireland. Nebraska did their media days before it even started.
No opening statement. That was the big controversy.
Oh God,
remember that? No opening statement.
I mean, he was just in kind of one of those funks where, no matter what he did, it was going to come off wrong. Because if
we don't have to renew that debate, but I was on the side of it didn't really bother me. It didn't bother me.
If he was too positive, people said, "Why are you so positive?" If you were negative, I mean, it was just in a bad place.
It was very Nebraska-ish that it became a hot debate. I'm just okay, really? He didn't make an opening statement. Does it matter that much? There was a part of me that kind of appreciated.
You better believe his boss.
No, the boss didn't like it.
Yeah, the boss did not.
The boss wanted an opening statement.
Right.
Yeah, and not all bosses would care. but this boss doesn't. That's
Now,
fine.
Matt Rule,
He'll have an
I
opening
mean,
statement.
you're going to think we're at like some mega church in Dallas. Like he'll come off the stage with I mean, it'll
be impressive.
it will be like,
Yeah.
Coach Rule will be, I mean, it will be the best opening statement we've seen from a Nebraska coach without a doubt.
Right.
I mean,
I wouldn't be surprised if it's the best opening statement of the 2-day session. I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, like Harbaugh's brutal. Harbaugh also does not give opening statements.
He doesn't.
No, he just is. He might say one sentence.
See, and that's kind of what I'm getting at. I mean, I don't know that it's a poor reflection on anything. It just is what it is. I mean, nobody cares that Harbaugh doesn't make a grand statement because he's winning a lot of games.
Or Saban.
Right. Now, I don't know what Saban does, but it just, I know, I mean, I might take some fire for that. I'm not really defending Frost. I'm just saying any coach, it doesn't bother me. Let's just go to questions. It's sort of appealing to me. Let's just go to questions, guys.
And media days is different now. Like you get that 15-minute made for TV portion.
Yeah.
And then there's another portion where you get like 45 minutes.
That's the other thing that I don't think people understand. Frost knew that he was going to.
No, he had already completed his 45-minute.
Okay. See, and that even absolves him a little more, in my opinion. He had already done. Yeah. He already done his big session with the media. So maybe, what are we doing here, Sean? We're debating this. He probably thought, why do I need to make an opening statement? I just talked to these people for 45 minutes. So that's where I come down.
Yeah, and you get 45 minutes with the head coach
anyway
at the media days. I always, in that upfront part now too, it's kind of turned into a show where like you get like student reporters, not as
main up front.
Not as mainstream. Where like somebody like, Coach, what is your favorite color? Like, I mean,
and you get some grandstanding too.
Right? Yeah, and you get people that just want to like make the thing about them when they ask.
That's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean.
And they come out with this long. This is so and so from the Wall Street Journal, and I've got like this long 25-minute question, and I want you to agree with me.
Right.
I mean.
So what we're talking about is July 26th and July 27th. We're going to Indy. Thank God we're not going to Chicago. Sorry, but I don't even know if I'd go to Chicago, Sean. I might just.
That might be one of the reasons why it's not in Chicago anymore.
There'd be people that would be hesitant to go, but anyway, it's in Indy, and we'll be there, and there'll be a lot to talk about.
All right,
I'm looking forward to writing about Sims, and that'll be fun.
Headline number 3. Let's talk Northwestern.
Okay,
they will be at Big Ten Media Days. But they don't have a head coach right now, and they have a defensive coordinator.
There's a liaison. His name is Braun from North Dakota State.
But it's a mess, and
it's a colossal mess.
I mean, they haven't had a press conference yet.
No.
They've had some player meetings.
I'll give you an example of a mess. You want an example? I don't think you've known this. I just saw it today. There's 6 faculty members that have written to Michael Schill, the president, Derek Gregg, the AD, 6 tenured faculty members at Northwestern have suggested, Sean, that they stop all planning and all marketing of the renovation for a new stadium. They're calling it a renovation, by the way, a rebuilding of the stadium. The plan is to build a 35,000 seat stadium.
That's $800 million.
$800 million. So now, Sean, the faculty, 6 tenured members, are calling for all of those plans to stop until the football program, the AD, the athletic department shows that the football program is under control.
What I would say though back is the Ryan family is paying the money. So like those faculty members don't have the authority to tell the Ryan family not to give that money.
They're just raising hell. But I mean, so we're going to get into who is a legit candidate. Now, this is what I'm going to say about this. Who is a legit candidate? It's someone who can pull people together, number one, because you're going to have a lot of friction. You're going to have a lot of people coming from different sides on this. You're going to have a Fitzgerald faction. You're going to have a faction. Well, I mean, the media is what I've noticed in the Chicago media is they're very anti-Fitz right now.
But they weren't before.
I don't know, but I don't know the dynamics so much. You're probably right.
I mean, people loved Fitzgerald.
Yeah. Well, and anyway, you're going to have a forceful veteran coach, a presence that, number one, can pull things together. I don't think you hire a guy who's never done it before. Not in this case. I don't mind that in a lot of cases, hiring somebody that doesn't have head coaching.
Like Ryan Walters to Purdue. I mean, but the Big Ten really right now as a league is at a point where they shouldn't have to hire coordinators as head coaches.
I'm not big on the Walters hire, by the way, but I don't think you can make that sort of hire at Northwestern at all right now. Not with everything going on, not with that kind of movement on campus. Well, and as we mentioned, the Chicago Tribune raised the question of whether they should just cease playing football. I'm telling you,
I know that is just way out there.
Just raised the question.
I mean, they're in a position to get $100 million a year from the Big Ten. Their ticket revenue is minimal compared to what these Big Ten. I mean, it's gotten to that way with Nebraska. Yeah, ticket revenue in Nebraska is a big deal, but the media rights payout is a significantly larger piece of money now.
So you hear like someone raised the possibility of Ed Orgeron. No,
come on.
It just it just doesn't fit at all.
I can't even do my Ed Orgeron.
Yeah, he's not going to galvanize the campus of Northwestern University.
Where's the gumbo?
They're not bringing. This isn't about bringing in a head coach that can get them a national title. No. That's not what this is about. Okay, you see what I'm saying? If Texas A&M fires Jimbo, maybe you look at Ed Orgeron at Texas A&M, where they're trying to win a national title. That's not what this is about.
Okay, like there's just people out there like Willie Fritz.
That makes sense.
The Tulane guy.
That makes sense.
You know, he's going from a private school to a private school.
It's had massive success.
And,
massive.
It's like if you're Willie Fritz, you're going to get opportunities maybe like Mississippi State.
Yeah, I just don't know if they can get someone like Willie Fritz at Northwestern, Sean. That's going to be the trick. There's going to be a lot of good candidates to say, why would I take that? Why would Willie Fritz take that job?
Well, what type of SEC or Big 12 job or ACC job would he get?
A better job than that.
Would you take like Mississippi State in the context
over
of
this tire fire?
Well,
I mean, come on. Would you take Mississippi State over Northwestern? Yes. Every day.
Have you ever been to Starkville?
I don't care. I've been to Evanston. That's just about as bad. And you know what I'm talking about. Come on. No. Yes, you take Mississippi State. You take any SEC job outside of
because, there's people like him and Traylor at Texas San Antonio.
This is a tire fire, Sean.
Like the perfect type of candidate, and this is a dream name, but like a Tony Dungy type guy.
Yeah, that's a dream. David Shaw.
A strong minority coach that has patience, reputation, like somebody that could handle this
100%.
That's and Shaw would fit that.
Shaw would fit
it. And Tony Dungy's not.
It's a dream.
That's a dream, but that would be like the whole.
Be perfect. Bronco Mendenhall, in some ways, would make sense, right?
How about this is real. Bob Stoops.
Yeah,
lives in Chicago, has a place on Michigan Avenue.
Oh God, that would be a dream. That's a dream hire.
But
that's what I'm talking about.
You come there and say, Bob, we know we're going to suck.
Yeah.
Just make us not so sucky.
Yeah, he ain't got to do it.
And we'll pay you $7 million.
Yeah. The question will be, can they get somebody desirable who won't just say, no, I'm not doing it?
You know what, though? The Stoops might be, they're Youngstown. They might be a little too gruff for what Northwestern's. That's why I go to the Tony Dungy type guy.
Right.
Like, I don't think they want a Columbus, Steve Sipple, South Omaha, Sean Callahan. No. They want a kind of a more sophisticated style of coach.
Stoops can polish it up.
He can't, but could the people we bring with them with it? Here's another one. Okay, tell me about this one. Jay Norvell.
Ooh, I like it. I
think he'd be a good fit.
I like it. Now that's an interesting
because
name.
Jay probably wants the Iowa job.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure he wanted the Michigan State. If something happened at Mel Tucker, could he be Michigan State?
His dad, Jay's dad was a former Michigan State AD.
And Jay played at Iowa. Those are jobs he's probably eyeballing. If he can't ever get one of those jobs and you get a Big Ten job with very low expectations, would Jay Norvell be a name at Northwestern?
It should be.
It should. I think he'd be a great fit there.
If he'd want to take that on, That's the question.
Jay might see this and like Sipple and Callahan, you guys are crazy.
No, I don't think he would. I mean, it would make some sense. It's just, is Jay thinking, why do I need to walk into that? That's
his
what
name
you're
hasn't
face.
been mentioned, but I think he is a guy to consider. He fits some of the things that you would want there.
Yeah, I think he could handle a lot of it. Again, Sean, I ask you the question: can you get a desirable head coach can you get somebody to even listen to you? You know,
My concern, if I was taking that job, are the transfer guidelines.
That's a concern.
Like, okay, in a given high school, like if you went to Columbus High or Gross High where we went, there might be 1 or 2 kids in your senior class that could get into Northwestern.
I think you might be selling Columbus a little short here, Sean, but I get your point.
No, I'm not. I mean, it's really hard to get to Northwestern. That's what I'm trying. It's one of the top 10 schools in the country.
Columbus is quite an academic institution.
Okay, how many people do you know that went to Northwestern from Columbus?
Well, I would say in my circle of friends, I can think of 3 guys off the top that could have gotten in there because 2 of them are Ivy Leaguers.
That's over a long period of time.
Yeah, I get your point. Now, the other issue, there's an issue here, is following this godlike figure in Pat Fitzgerald, who was lionized there. I mean, he was an incredible player for Northwestern, incredible linebacker, and look at him. I mean, just look at the photos. I mean, he ascended to this incredible.
I love that picture.
This incredibly exalted status. So now somebody's got to follow in that. Fitzgerald was Northwestern football, right? You're not going to get that guy, I don't think.
Well, and how much has the job changed? Think about this. What if the Ryan family just pulls out?
Yeah.
Then the job really changes.
I would like to think the Ryan family wouldn't do that. That this is about Northwestern athletics.
They're extremely close to Fitz, though. And what if they're on the side of Fitz, that they feel like he got a raw deal?
He didn't get a raw deal.
Well, okay. What if the president and the AD could end up losing their job over this too, though?
Could they?
Sugarland shared a post on our board. Northwestern
right?
Insider shared some information about the job situation at Northwestern.
Handled poorly by the president, but why would the AD?
The Ryan family has enough clout to like go after whoever they want.
Why would the AD get zigged over this? There's
going to be a lot of people that lose their job over this.
Now, why would the AD though? I mean, now you're going to say, well, because he presided over
any
this.
Players,
but he was only there. I think Derek Gregg, the AD, had only been there 1 year. The president made a colossal error in initially coming with a 2-week suspension.
He was like on vacation when they announced it too.
Terrible look. So Michael Schill's credibility as a leader is compromised for sure, but I'm not sure the AD's is.
We'll see where all this goes, but the Ryan family and their financial stakes, Northwestern, it's no different than T. Boone Pickens at Oklahoma State. They're that type of booster. They're not quite Phil Knight, but I mean, how many other people do you know that can build a school, a modern day stadium?
Not many.
And a facility. I mean, Nebraska's got that kind of going with the Peds long term. I mean, their commitment to Nebraska, but I'm just going to go out and say I don't think it's nowhere near this level with what the Ryans have done. $800 million. $800 million.
That's amazing.
All right. Headline number 4. You had a great interview, Steve, with Nick Henrich, story on HuskerOnline.com. He was cleared 2 weeks ago from that brutal knee injury he suffered out at Purdue, getting himself back. They also have the big road race this weekend to raise money for pediatric brain cancer in Team Jack. It's been a ongoing summer tradition started by Nebraska's Player Council, and Nick Henrich spoke to you about that.
Yeah, it's the 11th annual now. This road race has become almost like a program tradition. And it's interesting talking to someone like Nick. He's pretty convincing that he looks forward to it. I mean, this is a highlight for him. And he says it's the same way pretty much across the team. He says it's unique in that it's not an autograph session. There's no boundaries. He says you're talking to the fans, you're visiting with fans, and it's like it just feels like community. You know how autograph sessions are, or even fan day. There's sort of a natural barrier, right? Well, there's no barrier in this case. So, and of course, he's very in tune with the cause, which is all proceeds go to like, as you mentioned, pediatric brain cancer research. So yeah, and then also the part of it with Nick, couple things. He pushes a guy in a wheelchair named Andrew, a friend of his, Andrew, who had a brain tumor at age 5. Now he's in his 30s. So it's a story of inspiration, and it's very inspiring to Nick. Nick, by the way, as you mentioned, cleared 2 weeks ago. Now he's really, really enthusiastic about the start of camp because he's going to fight for a starting position, and he'll have to fight for a starting position because, they have some players that have risen up. MJ Sherman, Bullock, of course, Reimer's there. So I don't know. They have some depth at the inside linebacker spot, which they haven't always had here in recent years.
Yeah, that how he comes back from this injury, because that knee injury doesn't strike me as something that he's just going to be back at 100% cutting in full speed.
He says he's been cutting for some time, and we'll see on that. It was a rough one. It was an ACL. It was a tough one.
And he's had some injury issues over his career. So I think the bottom line, they need to figure out a way to rotate better.
Yeah.
Like, you can't expect Nick Henrich to play 60 snaps a game this year.
And I don't think he'll have to. I don't think.
And hopefully John Bullock, the way they move MJ Sherman around, the way they can move Jamari.
Those are the 4.
Jamari Butler.
Well, how much inside would Butler play?
Well, I'm going to go back to the annoying answer we got. They play all positions. They're going to move guys around. And it's really, really hard to just label this team right now, because I do think there's a lot of position versatility.
Yeah.
And Tony White is going to find matchups and move guys around.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. You sure don't want to get locked into arguments about who's playing what, because there are guys that got to move around. Can't forget Snodgrass. But those are the principles.
He was hurt for the spring though, right?
Yeah.
Snodgrass. So it's hard to really know his role and where he'll fit.
John Bullock, MJ Sherman, Nick Henrich, and Reimer. And I'm not saying in order. Those are your principles.
All right. Let's close it out with headline number 5. And we got a lot of stuff here. We're just going to call this one odds and ends.
Okay.
I got 3 things I want to hit on here in our odds and ends headline. Number 1, Omaha has announced officially now their new pro volleyball team, and Diane Mendenhall, who used to work for the university, was running and managing the Lincoln Community Foundation and their fundraising efforts, is now the president of this new pro volleyball team that will take place in Omaha. They're going to play at the CHI Center.
I'll be darned.
I mean, they're not playing at like a high school or Ralston Arena. I mean, they're playing in the CHI Center. Would you be surprised at all if this team draws well?
It's all about quality of play
and who they get.
Yeah, who they get. Names, name players and quality of play. Jimmy Burrow's involved in this. Joe Burrow's involved in this. I don't know if you'd call them the ownership group. Maybe you would, but they're heavily involved. I look at it like I look at spring football, Sean. Spring football in this country, I don't think it works very well because the quality of play. It's not bad across the board. Yeah, I was just going to say it's not bad across the board, but the quarterback situations are rough. And that's when you turn on a game and in the first 4 plays, you see 2 bad passes and you see an offense that has a hard time operating because the quarterback's not very good. Chances are you're not going to watch that game very closely, right? So what's the quality of play look like? That's what it comes down to for me.
Yeah, and the roster, as far as like former Huskers, the one notable name on there is Gina Mancuso.
Okay.
So you'll have one.
Nobody else? Come on, Sean.
Well,
would you recognize them if they were?
Some international players. I mean, these are really, really good players from around the world.
I took a shot at your lack of volleyball.
Nia Reed from Penn State.
Don't know that.
Yeah, don't act like she is. Sydney Hilly from Wisconsin's on the team here in Omaha.
I sort of do recognize
Lindsay Vander Whitey from Oregon.
Okay.
Kendall White from Penn State.
Okay.
Now, Abby was up here yesterday looking over the roster with me, and she perked up Danielle Hart from Wisconsin, Tori Dixon from Minnesota, the Baylor player on the roster. So one Husker player on this team right now.
See, right away, wouldn't you say it would be better for the Nebraska team to have a few more Nebraska players?
I think so. And the way that pro volleyball works around the world, or they pay these players a lot. Like Jordan Larson was making like $750,000 to play like in Russia or somewhere, or
a pretty good number.
And they're government funded because they don't have like the TV money and the ticket revenue to really pay that salary. So like a lot of these countries pay that's why the WNBA players go overseas to play, because the governments fund these leagues to get those players there.
Some good knowledge.
So you make like 3 or 4 times the salary overseas playing than you would in the States, because these leagues in Poland or wherever you're at are government funded.
You're dropping some Karch Karai information on me over there.
Well, it's just, women's sports, like women's sports in general, like that WNBA players they play here, but they make 5 times the money overseas. And also those girls will play 2 seasons.
Interesting.
And it'll be interesting. Can this league make it where volleyball players don't have to play in overseas and in the States? Like, what will the salaries be for these girls?
Interesting.
All right, let's move it around the horn.
Yeah, whip it around, Sean.
Number 2, Big 12 Media Days. So
it's happening.
First one's going on. We got the BYU angle, Cincinnati, Central Florida.
And
now who's the 4th one?
Houston. Sean.
Gosh darn it.
Houston,
fourth team joining the Big 12. I'm fascinated by the Big 12 this year.
I am too.
Just to see how it plays out.
How many members do they have right now?
14.
You got it. So Texas and Oklahoma will leave the premises after this year. Texas is favored. Sarkisian says this is the first team. He's 13-12 there, Steve Sarkisian. But he says, this is my team now. This is a team that walks like I want it to walk, talks like I want it to talk, practices like I want it to practice, moves like I want it to move. This is my team.
That's kind of dangerous to say, though.
Why is that?
Because then if it goes bad,
it's your team.
It's your team.
So, yeah, Texas has picked to win it. Kansas State's number 2. Brett Yormark spoke to the media yesterday. He was not illuminating on expansion except to say they have a plan. He says, we have a plan. Don't know what the plan is. He said that we're not fixated on a number. Again, they're at 14 now.
It'll be 12 next year.
When they go away, it's 12. He had previously said 14 is a good number. Then he's backed off on that. Brett Yormark said the right number is when everybody feels good and it's profitable for everybody and everybody's in a good spot. That's the right number. It'll go up.
I think their dream is to get Utah, Colorado, Arizona State, then that would bring them back to 16.
Yeah, I think that's a lot. Listen, there's been a lot of speculation about that.
That solidifies them.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's the plan he's referring to. That makes the most sense, right?
But man, this Pac-12 media deal,
okay. And then when I'm reading yesterday about that, the Pac-12 media deal, which is not, it's not finalized. It seems like they've pushed past deadline after deadline.
Wait 2 weeks.
Yeah. And I know on this show previously, maybe last week, I said, Sean, I think they'll announce it on July 21 during the Pac-12 media days. Now they're saying there may not be an announcement then. So now if the Pac, I don't know what's going to happen.
Remember during COVID, every moment was like, wait 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Wait 2 weeks. That's the Pac-12 media day. It's the wait 2 weeks deal. Give us 2 more weeks.
Don't bring up
COVID. I should have brought a snack pack for you from Northwestern. I bet those will be cut from the budget. Those professors are going to cut your snack pack from the press box.
God only knows what we'll be doing. But it's pretty. I'm with you on the Big 12. And Yormark said, this is what he said, Sean. He said the Big 12 has never been in a better position. I'm like, wait a second, really?
Nebraska, they obviously are in the Big 10. They're not leaving the Big 10.
No,
but there's so much about the Big 12 they'd be probably a better fit with.
No doubt.
Other than the money.
I'm not going to sugarcoat that. Now you tell me if I'm wrong on this, but there's just a much better cultural fit.
So Nebraska wants to be in a league where they're the big dog on the block,
Mhm.
where when they walk into the meeting room, people, oh, that's Nebraska. And they don't get that in the Big Ten.
No, they don't.
They get told to shut up and sit down.
Pretty much. Unfortunately.
And
that's the way it is.
You know, if they were still in the Big 12, they would pretty much control the room right now.
I wonder. I don't know that.
Well, who would control it over?
I don't. Well, they'd have to win. Now you're assuming they're winning.
The financial numbers and television ratings.
Yeah.
That's where they're winning still.
Oh, Sean, I'm not gonna. I mean, here's the deal. I would love for them to still be in the Big 12. All right, but this is a money discussion, as you said. I guess you might also say it's an academic prestige discussion.
Right.
It's those two things, but it's in terms of fit. I think we've learned that Nebraska is a much better fit in the Big 12.
COVID showed us that.
Yeah.
I mean, Nebraska was the only team that wanted to play football.
Were they the only one? No, they weren't the only one. Ryan Day wanted to play.
And Ryan Day
wanted to play.
And they got just torched.
I think there were other coaches that wanted to play too, by the way.
The political landscape of
I think the president,
what was going on at that time with just the political climate of the country.
Sean, I think you could have found some coaches that wanted to play who were muted by their superiors.
Like Barry Alvarez always struck me, like how he had to like toe the line that
muted by superiors.
We're in a pandemic. Remember he was on that, like people were trying to press him about not playing and he like raised his voice. We're in a pandemic. You know, like
I don't know where Barry came down on it, but I guarantee you there was more than two coaches. It wasn't just Frost and Day that wanted to play.
Iowa wanted to play too.
Yeah.
And I do think Penn State wanted to play.
I don't know. I'm not going to speculate any further. I just know there's.
But it was a deal where back then where like if your kids weren't around training, you didn't want to play. Like Michigan State, I went on show, like they did not want to play that year.
They weren't ready.
No. I mean, they had a new coach that didn't even get a spring.
Right. Yeah, they were in a tough situation.
It's funny to think about it now. Like, would Scott Frost have been better off if Nebraska just didn't play in 2020?
I mean, no, I don't know.
Nobody knows. But like when you think about the damage 2020 did, it caused Wan'Dale Robinson to leave. The players voted not to go to a bowl game. Like that whole
was a rough year.
I mean, it was rough.
Oh, it was god awful.
His father passed away leading up to that season. They wanted to play football, but when it was all said and done, was at the right.
I don't know.
Without the fans involved, I felt it was different. When you didn't have fans at Nebraska, like that took away the heartbeat of it all. Nebraska is about the fans. And that 2020 year, and we're way off topic, by the way, which I think hopefully people enjoy.
I don't want to sound like a snowflake, but that season was god awful. I'm glad for the players that they got to play because there was some fun times, right? When they beat Penn State in Lincoln, there was ungodly joy. I mean, that's a really happy team. They go out to Rutgers and win. I think by that, it was pretty clear that at least half the team was just like, this is enough. This is enough.
I'll never forget
after they played Rutgers.
I'll never forget leaving New York City the next morning. It would have been Saturday morning.
Yeah, it was a Saturday morning.
The number of people just trying to get the hell out of New York. Like the airport was packed.
I don't remember that, but you're probably right.
At Newark Airport.
Yeah. Why?
For the holidays and the COVID restrictions that were, you couldn't even go to you couldn't go anywhere in New York.
No, it was awful. Remember the hotel we stayed in? You had to you couldn't order. There was no wait staff. There's no waiters and waitresses.
And you had to sign in to work out. Like they had to walk you in the workout room and you had to sign in. And I mean, it
felt like you were hostage at this hotel.
I still, back to the weird COVID things we dealt with, you had to get a temperature check for every game. And to this day, I want to know one person that nailed somebody on a temperature check. Oh, we got one. He can't come in.
So strange.
I mean, let's think about they checked our temperature. That was going to stop us from covering the game.
Yeah, we better.
All right, we're way off the track. Let's get back on. Final thought here in our odds and ends segment. How about Jeff Sims landing a big John Deere deal
with Acre?
Yeah. Acre's equipment.
Yeah. And they sell new and used John Deere equipment. It's good for him.
And
I like the Acre supporting the program.
To confirm that this is not a deal that was set up by the collective, like the 1890 initiative. didn't like orchestrate this. Like, I think they helped Jeff Sims get the meeting, but this is like a separate deal. So you can have your deals with the collective, but you're able to do these things. And I think in the spirit of what we thought NIL was going to be, this is what we thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Like we thought it was going to be, this would be cool. Jeff Sims is going to be on a tractor,
We haven't seen a lot of this though.
No, because it costs a lot of money, and
it costs who a lot of money?
Companies.
Yeah.
To pay athletes. To do these things, and there's risk. Like anytime you put your brand on the hands of a 20-year-old kid,
you're right.
A lot of things can go wrong.
I mean, I think they probably have to vet that pretty closely.
Like you make one wrong tweet, one wrong post, you get arrested, you get a DUI.
Yeah.
I mean, then all of a sudden this becomes like a bad deal for a company's brand. So
it could. Yeah.
What?
It would.
It would.
Yeah.
And it could. It would.
Okay, Sean. No, you
don't always have to try to disagree with me to create.
Well, I don't want to go too far.
But I'm saying it'd be bad for a company if a guy got in trouble.
Yeah. For acre.
So, but you see it like volleyball, like Allie Battenhorst has got a big one of like Midwest Bank. A lot of the girls have Scooter's Coffee from the volleyball team.
But it's not as prevalent as you thought, right? These marketing deals are very public, right?
Right. You have to be a very top 1%er to get those.
And we thought it would be a little different, right?
Like Elliott Brown's an interesting case study because he has the highest valuation on On3 because he has the largest followings on TikTok and one of the larger Instagram followings.
Elliott Brown,
son of Lance Brown. And a lot of his follower boost became with a friendship he had with JoJo Siwa, who was a, big time pop star 10 years ago, 8 years ago, still involved. But she did some TikToks with them and his following number just skyrocketed. So he's kind of benefited off that early, but he does a lot of his own content, and you'll see him do kind of endorsement videos and stuff on his own. And
is that right?
He's kind of side hustled his own, and he's never played a down of significance for Nebraska, but he's been able to take that and side hustle it to a little bit of stuff.
Good for him. Good for him. And he is, I would say he's in the top 5 or so in the kickoff return group. I don't know if he's doing punt return, but he was doing kickoff return, and he was in the top 5 guys.
Like he didn't get to dress out in fall camp last year, though. He was there watching. He got to go to Ireland. He gave the speech in the park that day.
Oh God.
Because the other players, he was there, but yeah.
I missed the big speech.
All right. Well, what do you got going this week? Anything?
Just work. I mean,
I'm going to Wichita, baby.
I know. I gotta write columns. So yeah, I'm Saturday. I gotta write. I don't know. I don't got a big weekend plan. It feels like it's all on us.
So I'm taking off here on Friday to go to
Wichita?
Wichita for the Kansas Cornhusker annual picnic. You might, and I think I'm going to get you for next year.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a great event, about 200 people.
And you're going to speak to the people.
Speak on Saturday, come back Saturday night.
At a picnic?
So my main order of business here Friday is figuring out where I'm going to eat Friday night. And then I'm going to work on the book. And
it can't be that hard.
No, I mean, yeah, you want to get it right, though.
Yeah. Are you looking at barbecue?
Steak places.
Steak places. Okay. How about barbecue? How about a Mexican place? How about a little?
We're going to save that one for Indianapolis.
Oh, we are. What's the place? You don't know the name of the place, though. I can't remember it either. It was really good.
It wasn't Toro or Matador. That was your other ones. Those were your other ones.
Yeah, I can't remember, but it was really good. And you got on me because I ordered 2 margaritas, and I think they're $20.
They're $20 a piece.
Yeah,
you just started working for us back then. But I will be in Wichita. Looking forward to that. See the Kansas Cornhuskers.
Yeah.
Sip will have his great column on Sunday. Obviously, if you're not on the site today, we have Tunnel Talk up right now. You want to read Tunnel Talk on HuskerOnline.com. It is our kind of in-depth, inside information news feature that we do every other week in the off season. So make sure you get on Husker Online, check that out. Also follow, subscribe to us anywhere you can find podcasts, like us here on the YouTube page. For Husker Online, I'm Sean Callahan.